Greetings and salutations. This video has been like the fourth time I've tried to make this video. The first two were the videos were corrupting, and then the third time it just was a user error. I don't know, I don't know which user, but definitely a user error. But I wanted to start from the overall the menu, right? When you go into single player, and it's important because you go into creative and there's the reason why you need to kind of get your head wrapped around the environment that you create your object in is because if you build it on the planet, you have the advantage of manipulating the lightning in the day and night cycle. Where if you build it in space, you don't have that ability. It's just one type of atmospheric lighting. But in space, you also are void of oxygen, and it makes it also easier to debug the oxygen bases or oxygen ships, and it also makes it easier to work on the underside of the vehicle without saving it and replacing it in. So there's some advantage, pros and cons to which planet you want to start on. So usually when I'm recording, I like to spawn it in just on a regular planet because of the daylight, and it makes it easier to record it. Because if in space, it's hard to see. And let load in. So I really in this video I want to cover the build menu, the cut and paste. I want to cover some hotkeys, and I want to cover a technique that I use. I like to refer it to as slices of bread to make a loaf, right? Like you're gonna, and I'll show you that. So first thing is we're gonna press G to go into God mode. We're just gonna press if I press Control while I use my WSD keys, I'm able to to fast travel or fast move, right? To get to a spot that I want to build. So we're going to press the H key, and we're going to go into the item menu. I'm going to select base starter, and I'm going to select steel blocks. Now, you can build your base out of whatever you want to build, but there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. If you build it out of carbon substrate, in a way, it has less hit points, but it's a reduction in CPU usage. It's great for that first starter base. But the issue that you run into is as you transition into space and you start killing more POIs, either spaceships or bases, you will start to collect a lot of steel through that process, and then you'll have an abundance of steel. And if you want to make other bases or ships, you're going to have to go back down to the planet and farm up a bunch of trees to make that carbon substrate. Where if it's made out of steel to start with, it's just easier to dump it into your factory and then start the blueprint, and it's just a faster process. So I recommend, in general, make most of your stuff out of steel. Obviously, other applications apply, special purpose, niche vehicles, etc. But for the most part, steel is the way you want to go. Okay, so we're going to place the base right here. And so the way this works is what you have to get your mind wrapped around is the keys that you use to manipulate the blocks are your keys between the number pad and the keyboard. Those are the ones of the home, end, up, down, or page up, page down, insert, and delete. And if I hit delete, you can see delete and home, it moves back and forth. And if I hit delete and then end and home, it moves right and left. And go back to delete, it hit home and end. So it lets you change the axis on which you're on. And course, page up and page down lets you move the block up and down. So I'll split it halfway, and then I'll go over here to my steel blocks. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can individually place every block, right? You can place every block, and you can be like boom, boom, right, and then boom, and you can kind of figure out your geometry that way. But there's a quicker way. There's actually two ways that you can do it. We're going to go undo, undo, undo. And you can think about this like a Word document. In a Word document, how you have cut and paste, and you have a lot of these options in the top right corner of a Word document. It's the same thing, but there's a few other pieces to this. If I hit N, I have to hit N to change my camera angle, but then I go back in, and so everything that I did is still there. I'm going to select you gotta hit N to go back out, and you're gonna, come on, why are you not select? there we go. I have to get on the axis. There we go. So see that blue wall? So that means it'll clone everything on the other side of that blue wall. So usually the blue is right to left, right? Sideways. The green is front to back. That's the way I remember it. Green is front to back. Blue is side to side, right to left. And then your z-axis is top and bottom. So sometimes when you place down your core and you delete all those other blocks and you start building, it's an easy way to kind of figure out which direction your core is if you weren't paying attention, is to build off the green one. So as we go this way, you can either place them one at a time, or you can just hold the left mouse button down and drag it out like this, right? And so it just makes it much easier. And what I'll do is I'm going to build one slice of that loaf of bread is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build one slice. And so it's just to kind of show here, and you rotate around. If you right click on a block, man, I'm having trouble speaking. Right click on a block, you can tab through all these different shapes that block can be transformed into. So I'm just going to use the ramp A double, right? And I'll rotate between two blocks to get that roof wedge that slope on that ceiling that I need. And so I'll just rotate back and forth. I do wish they would flesh this out a little bit, before it went, kind of give it the ability to maybe move some of these around or set in some presets, so I could just be like, drag this over, right click and drag this over and have a preset. And so that way I don't have to find these in the menu every time. And so go like this, right? And what we're doing is we're going to kind of put our thing. You can see this side is cloned. So we're just continue on here. And if I had to do this where I had to build this side and then turn around and build the other side, it would significantly increase the amount of time that it took to do this. And it's going to speed up here rapidly here in a second once I close this loop. So we go right here. And of course you can clone it the other way too if you want. But if you understand how to use these tools, it goes really quick. Okay, I think we'll just go regular block. Boom, right? And now it's closed in. Now it's closed in. So it's something I got to keep in mind. If I clone this or replicate this, I want to do as much polishing on this as possible before I clone this out. And so I'll just kind of tighten up the inside here as well, so that way it saves me work down the road, right? And so I go like this, and now I have a shape, right? So now I'm going to introduce you the selection tool. So that's your kind of symmetry plan, and think about that as one slice of bread in a loaf of bread. Okay, so now we're going to have the selection tool. And the thing with the selection tool is you can see, let me reset this, you can see where it has a block. Okay, and the selection tool really has three kind of modes that it exists in. And you have your move tool, you have your selection tool, and then you have your rotate tool. Rotate tool is not activated because we don't have anything copied, or we're trying not placing anything. So if we want to move something around, you have your one arrow that moves it up one space, and you have your double arrow, you drag and you can move it around. You basically drag and hold, because if you click it once, it doesn't do anything. You have to drag and hold the double arrow. So I'm going to go to the selection tool, and you can see I hit N to move around, hit N again, so it's still there. You just change the camera view, and then I drag it up, right? I'm going to drag it down. Okay, and then hit N again to make sure that I didn't drag too much or change too much, and hit N and go back one and go down one, and boom, there we go. So that means that wedge, that slice of bread, is completely, I've gotten everything in the selection tool. Okay, so I have a couple options here. I can either A, copy it, or I haven't copied anything, so there's nothing to paste. So either A, I can copy it, or B, I can cut it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit copy. Okay, and so now copy is saved in the clipboard. Okay, so I'm just gonna hit move. I'm going to move it over one. I'm going to hit paste, right? So, and the thing with paste though is right now it's not the item exists in the world, but it's not pasted in the world. So right now it's kind of like halfway there. To think about it that way. So for me to actually place it, I got to hit paste one more time, and the box turns blue again. And that's how I know that it's not just a shadow box. Um, it's an actual item mounted in the game. So what I'm going to do now is I need to get the multi-tool out, and I'm going to delete this other core because I don't need two cores. And then I'll place a block, right? And boom. So what I'll do now is, now that I've deleted that core, and so that saved a tremendous amount of time, and I'm going to hit copy again. And so now I didn't have to replicate all those shapes and all that stuff again, and I'm just going to basically hit paste, and I'm going to hit paste again, and now I've replicated, and I'm going to do it one more time. Paste twice, boom. So now you can see where it just took seconds to emulate that shape. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the select tool, and I'm going to grab 3 of them. I'm going to hit copy, and what that does is it's going to paste a larger volume. So I'm going to hit paste once, and so now I have my shadow box. You can see it. It's not actually in the game. It's just kind of like a shadow representation of it, what it looks like you're going to paste. And I can be like paste twice. So there's once, paste twice, and if I wanted to, I could grab a larger chunk, but I kind of don't need to. Three's enough. I mean, the time that you save is kind of subjective at this point. It's taken just seconds to create this structure, because you think about it like a loaf of bread. I'm just adding more slices of bread to that loaf. Just more slices of bread. I got to change my camera angle, so I'm going to hit in, and it's still in the clipboard. It's still in the clipboard. All I have to do is just go back. Okay, and you see how now, okay, it's still in the shadow box mode. And I just want to make sure, boom, right? And there it is. There it is. So quickly I was able to rapidly kind of fill out that structure within a matter of seconds. Now, one of the things you got to keep in mind is as you go through here and see, so now I placed that in the wrong place, and so I have a gap there. So I can do a couple different things. I can either cut it out, let me place it back in there, or I can undo it, and then hit paste, and boom. So once you understand kind of the tool sets, rapidly go through and create a structure. So now we're going to get into some of the mirror sets. So one of the things you can do is you can either build a side where you can build a side, so I'll go in here and I'll press, I want to build a door. So I'm going here and go into the big doors. And I'm going to do a separate video on logic and a separate video on how to set up doors and CPU and mass and volumes. I'm going to break those down into other videos because I'm finding that this video is just a little too drawn out. So let me find the door. Where are you at? I know you're in here, right here. So the thing is when you go to the door, you right click on the door, right? And you can, there's all these different sizes of blocks. So you can have a giant door, you can have kind of a regular door, you can have, okay. And so I want a little longer of a door. Let me there you go, perfect, right? Perfect. So I can either place this down and come over here and then build this, or I can come back to here and I come back to here and hit in and go back to my symmetry planner, and we're going to do this. So now it's going to clone everything on this side. Try to square this up. I don't think that has symmetry. It doesn't matter. This is for the purpose of this video. Boom. And there we go. So you can see the difference now. So obviously this is not symmetrical based off the core, which is okay, which is okay, but it gives you kind of an example of it's going to mirror exactly the same amount of blocks. So obviously I placed too many blocks on that side. So now, because we did the symmetrical thing, I can do a couple different things. I can, let's say I want to block this off and block this off. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to go hit in and go back to our build menu. And I'm going to hit the selection tool. Go back to the selection tool. And I'm just going to click right here. And I'm going to fill, I got to go to my scale selection. And I'm going to fill this in right here. Even though I have it, there's nothing to cut. And I'm just going to hit the fill selection. And boom, fill selection, just like that. And if I want, I could retrace this, or I could just, or I could basically drag it down either way. So another challenge is the problem with the field selection. Obviously, I can't get the angle on the field selection. There's no triangle shape that I can fill selection like it. So I have a couple options here. And that's one of the limitations. There's no way for me to like do the field selection, because if I just hit field selection, see what it did is it replaced it all and it cut into it and it changed all my shapes. So that's not really an option there. So hit in and say undo, which is wonderful. And now what we'll do is we'll go back to mirror, because we want to mirror it, and we'll just let me go to window and I'll type in win. And I'll do regular windows. There we go. And then I'll kind of explain a function here too. So you see when I try to place this steel block, even if I did a shape like this, I can't squeeze that block in that crevice there. So even though that visually you see that it's cut out, and even if I hit V and I can go G or into regular mode, I can walk in there. See how I can walk in there? It still occupies a space. So once you know that when you use those shaped blocks and they occupy spaces, you kind of have to build a certain way. And one of the ways to do that is you basically build next to it. And so I'll pick an angle here, right here. I'll build next to it. And even though visually it looks the same, like it looks like a window on a wall. It looks the same. So, but that's how you get around that, is when you build with shapes, you need two spaces, two block widths to build a single panel. And that's how that is done. And once you understand that, you can kind of get around more of your complex shapes and create those visual appearances that you want to create. So what I'm doing is I'm mirroring on the other side. Okay, and then let me just double check. I don't see nothing going on over here. It's not going. Oh, because I think because there is a I think because it's already, that's weird. Do I have it selected? I do have it selected. I have the blue wall up. Okay, so I think what I need to do, and you'll run into stuff where you kind of need to problem solve. So I think what I need to do is hit in, right? I'll hit the select tool and I'll just select a corner and then go to the middle one, the selection scale, and I'm just going to delete everything. Hit in, and you can see it through the building. Oh, see how it's nighttime on me? I forgot to turn off. I forgot to stop time and then turn it back to sun. And this is why it's important when I'm recording, because I want to maintain that daylight. So hit in and go up here, right, and just drag this all the way across. Okay, and we're just drag all this all the way out. And I'm just going to hit cut. Boom. So now this should I'm going to have to do this again for the purposes of tutorial. There's a couple ways I could do this, but I'm just going to, just to show this mirror. Okay. Let's see if this gets me there. Why are you not emulating? Let me see something here. in. There we go. That's probably why. Okay, let's see if it does it now. Yep, that was it. Because the block was occupied by another block, it didn't it it didn't emulate. Get rid of that. Okay, and hopefully that kind of showed you the it showed you like when you're placing these on, you know, what's really taking place, the space that it really occupies. Like if I place this here, it'll place there because it's occupying that block. Okay, let's delete this, and we're going to go back to the window, and we're going to rotate it. We're going to rotate it. Okay, and I always find if I line up at this like 45-degree angle, it just makes it easier to stack those quickly. And then boom, right there. And you can see the other side emulated it. And then I'm going to do just regular windows. Regular windows. I got to rotate it around with my home end keys like this. And I'm just going to drag it across just like that. And you can see the other side as I do it, just drag it across. And one thing you notice is when I'm trying to get this window here, if I just put my crosshairs right over the corner of the window seal, it will easily snap into place, right? It'll easily, so I'll just put it over that window sill next to it. You see that? You just aim at the window sill next to it and it'll just go right into place. I don't know why it's giving me a hard time about, there it goes. And boom, right? And then get this last one. It's being problematic. So I get at that 45-degree angle and it snaps right in. Okay, so now this thing is sealed off. So let me delete this. Looks like a couple of bat wings, right? Oh, it is not sealed off. Okay, there's this. And there's this. So here, let me close this in, because there's one thing I want to show you in this menu that's part of, and I was debating on making this a second video, but I think what I'll do is I'll keep it in this video. And so this is not, in a certain aspect, this is not a, this is sealed off. And so how I can tell is if I press in and I go to debug and I say show airtight blocks, right? And I look around here, and it's all green, right? It's all green. So everything, I mean, obviously, like it's not rendered that part beyond the door, but as I move closer, you can tell that it's all green. And I'll show you an example of a non-airtight block. So if I hit in, and this comes into place on those systems that are, you know, don't have oxygen, or if you're in outer space. I'm gonna go back to in. I'm gonna turn this off. Okay, and I also want to show you, oxygen too. So H, right? I'm gonna go oxygen tank, and then I need to go type in O2, O2. Click on your right here and right here. Oh, that's not O2. That's OE. O2. Okay, and then I'm gonna do some O2 bottles. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna place a tank in the middle of the room. That's how I roll. Okay, and press E. Okay, and I'm gonna dump all this oxygen in there. Okay, so now this room has oxygen. So if I just hit in and I say show oxygen, there's no oxygen in here. There's no oxygen here, right? If I hit in and go show airtight, it's airtight, but there's no oxygen. So for me to get oxygen, I actually have to pump the oxygen into the room, and I do that by press H, by the fan. The fan, which is, I forget what they call it. It is the minimize right here, the ventilator, right? And so you go to the ventilator, and you can put it, I'll put it right on top of the air tank for the purpose of this. Boom, right? I have a ventilator, and the ventilator does have a little bit of customization in the shapes that it has. So there is a little bit of leeway there. So if I press, if I go to my base and I turn oxygen is on, okay, and if I hit in, I don't think it'll put out oxygen. until I put power to this though. So I got to put power to this, hit in, right? Oxygen. There's no oxygen yet because this thing is not powered. So I press H, and now I'll get a generator in here and get a little Ginny. Okay, little Ginny. And I'm going to need a fuel tank for my little Ginny. Okay. And I'm going to need some power, right? I'm going to need a little bit of power, which is under resources. So let's do this. So put the Ginny on top, just for the purposes of this video, so that way you can see everything you need to kind of run a base. And then I'll put the fuel tank on top of that. Right? Okay. And then now I got to put some fuel in the fuel tank. And that right there is your basic base, right? Those are the 4 components that you need to make an airtight basic base. So if I just hit P and go to my panel, you'll see that the oxygen is, I'll turn the oxygen off, power's off, right? And then I go back to my debug, you see no oxygen, but it is airtight. So go back to panel, turn on oxygen, turn on power. And you can see how this room has oxygen. So it is a survivable habitat, which you now can grow plots. You can grow plots. So a piece of this that I want to show you is, let's say I blow out this wall. Okay, I'm going to hit in. Okay, I'm going to blow out this wall. And I need to also turn off it in and go back here and turn off this. So blowing out this wall. Okay, and I'm going to put a fuel tank right here. Right? Boom, there's a fuel tank. Now here's what you need to be aware of is fuel tanks in O2 are not airtight. So that is not airtight, right? And then when I come back in here and I say in show oxygen, you'll notice that I gotta hit P, turn on oxygen. You'll notice that there is your oxygen right there, and the rest of it, it's this room, it doesn't have pressure, and it's leaking out of that O2 tank right there. So there are several things in the menu, like all this stuff right here, all these items that I added, they're not airtight. So if you use generators, fuel tanks, some of the O2 sensors, also some of the ventilator sensors. So if you can see it, it's not airtight. If it's green, see, that's not airtight. Let's see this. Let me see. Let me redo this again. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So those are airtight. I guess those are airtight. Okay. But you get the idea. Some stuff is not airtight. Some stuff is airtight. So you gotta check it. You gotta check it and make sure that so if I want to just seal this up, right? Let's go. Let's hit in. So what it did is I have to reset it, because what it did is it changed, right? So now I just switched the oxygen off and it reset the room. That's why it gave me that warning, is something changed and I got to reset the system, and that's why that message was. And now it's oxygen airtight. So I think that covers one more thing I want to show you. So the beauty about the workshop is if you press F2, you'll go to the workshop, and for you to add something to your library or the blueprints, all you have to do is hit, let me turn that off. All you do is you just hit this, the right Alt and O, and it'll allow you to save as, right? And you can name a base. Okay, but the beauty is, the other side of this coin is you save your blueprint and you can upload it to the store, yada, yada, yada. But the beauty of this is you hit F2, and let's say you want to, there's some function or feature that you really like, right? So let's say I want to add solar panels. So I'm just going to spawn this in. This is one of Randall's designs. Well, I've heavily modified it, but it's one in Randall's design. It's a solar, space base. But let's say I like the solar panels. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I don't need to spend an hour or two trying to recreate all of this craziness. I'm just going to copy it and paste it, one swoop, and I'll save myself 2 hours of time. So go back to building. I'm just going to select I gotta hit the selection tool. I'm gonna select it. I'm gonna drag it out, drag it down, drag it up. Now, something you have to be aware of is if you overshoot the selection tool and you know, it's like no big deal here, right? I mean, there's nothing to copy. But then when you go to paste it on the other side, if you have a big gap like this, what you'll do is you'll actually paste a big blank space into into your uh, into your project. So you got to be careful how. Yeah, there we go. I knew something looked a little off there, and you see, oh, see, I almost missed all the guts. So that's why it's important to hit M and kind of circle back around on some of this stuff, is because you wanna get all of the little bits and pieces. So I'm just gonna hit N, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit cut. And the reason why I'm gonna hit cut is I want to make sure that I got everything. Because if I just hit copy, I might be missing something. So I'm gonna hit cut, okay, and everything is gone. The whole thing is gone. And I'm just gonna come down here. Now, if I hit paste, right, if I come down here, and I'm going to show you this. If I just hit N and then I go paste, it's up there. And if I try to drag it down here and I go this way and I come this way, right? The issue that you're going to run into is they're not linked. They're not going to match up. You're going to have an issue where because this is one item, right? This has an item number, and this is one item. And they're set on different planes. Even though they look like they're on the same plane, they're technically set on two different planes. And you're going to run into issues where you can't get stuff to line up. And so what you know that might work, but what you have to do is you have to say remove selection, and then you reselect the building that you want to attach it to, and then you hit paste. Right, and you see how it flipped it around? It like re-zeroed it. It put it to scale. So I'm just going to rotate it now. I'm going to go boom, boom, right? And then I'm going to hit the move key. I'm going to move it down. Okay, and I'm just going to hit paste for the purposes of this. Actually, I'm going to go one out. I'm going to hit paste. Paste. And there it is. Now that complex design that Randall did, I was able just to really incorporate it into my existing base, you know, and now the base has solar capability. And I'm going to do a separate video on solar. I just wanted to kind of get your head wrapped around transferring like well complex items or you know, on arrays or maybe drone doors or drone hatches or landing gear off of an existing target onto an existing project onto your new project seamlessly, without having to recreate everything from scratch. Because that's, you know, so I built this whole thing in literally like 10 minutes with explaining, or maybe 20 minutes with explaining everything and all these different systems that exist. And so I'm going to stop the video here, but as always, thanks for watching. If you have any feedback or insight, you know, one of the things that I don't have a good grasp on, you know, I'm admitting some ignorance here, is I cannot get this to work the way that it should. I can copy items in here, but and I'll have like a list of items, but when then I go to try to put them back in the world, I cannot get them back into the world. So it's one of those things, like, so if I say save to list, right, and I'm going to say solar, okay, right, and then when I say copy to selection, there's no way to put it back into the world. So that's the thing I haven't been able to figure out. But as always, thanks for watching.